I always tell people, I said, a beautiful death does not necessarily mean an easy death. Even my husband Stephen, who I think died a remarkable death, which is one reason why I wrote the book. There's labor getting into this world and there's labor getting out. So I don't ever mean to minimize the difficulty of a person's passing from this world to the next. But what was beautiful, particularly about Stephen's passing, was the fact that neither one of us was actually afraid for him to die. I've said if it was Stephen's destiny to die young, which I believe it was, he couldn't have picked anyone better than me to be married to, because I was not afraid of death. You know, we live in a death-averse culture. It's not something we like to talk about. I was doing a book signing a few weeks ago at a Barnes & Noble, and a guy came up to me and he said, well, it's an interesting book, but he said, you know, I'm not going to die. And I said, well, me either, but just in case you might want to read my book. But I was not afraid of the idea of death. And my parents both grew up on farms in Missouri. And I think that something about having grown up in a rural atmosphere where the cycles of life and death are part of life, they were more comfortable with the idea. And when we would go to visit relatives in Missouri during the summer, one of the things we did was we would go to the cemetery. We would visit the graves, and my father was doing a book on his mother's family's genealogy. So he was always looking at records. So the whole idea that people we love get sick or old and die was familiar. You know, it was something that happened. So I was not afraid of the process. Also, Stephen and I came from a very rich spiritual tradition that understood life here on earth as a schoolroom and life on the other side as a continuation of learning of the soul. So for Stephen, where he was going was a beautiful place, and he wasn't afraid of that. So we kind of had a mindset that death was not necessarily the worst thing that could happen to you.